Women get addicted to men who act like they're nothing because mystery, scarcity, and confidence trigger deep desire. Indifference creates a powerful pull, making her chase what feels rare. It's not the neglect she loves, but the strength, self-control, and quiet dominance that makes him unforgettable. Mystery has always been one of the most magnetic forces in human relationships, and when it comes to attraction, its power is undeniable. A man who doesn't immediately reveal everything about himself, who holds back pieces of his story and emotions, creates an irresistible pull. Women find themselves leaning in, wondering, who is he really? What else is hidden beneath that silence? That curiosity alone becomes addictive. It's not about what he says, but about what he withholds that creates the emotional tension she cannot escape. When everything about a person is laid bare too soon, there is no space left for wonder, no room for imagination, no reason for her to chase. Mystery keeps the mind occupied because it forces her to fill in the blanks with her own emotions, her own interpretations, her own fantasies. A man who doesn't rush to explain himself, who doesn't constantly justify his actions, keeps her engaged on a deeper psychological level. She begins to crave his attention, his validation, his presence simply because she doesn't fully have it. Mystery is not about manipulation, but about self-control. A man who can resist the urge to overexpose himself signals strength. He shows that he doesn't need to be understood by everyone, nor does he need constant approval. That kind of quiet self-assurance is rare, and rarity is always valuable. She may not admit it, but the man who carries mystery around him makes her heart race faster than the one who lays everything out on the table. The unknown becomes intoxicating because the unknown feels limitless. It also ties into a woman's natural instinct to explore and to connect. When he gives her just enough to stay intrigued but never the full picture, she invests more of her emotions trying to discover the missing parts. She starts asking questions, replaying conversations, analyzing his actions, and reading deeper into his silences. Without realizing it, she becomes emotionally hooked. His mystery turns into her mission, and missions are what create obsession. Think about it. When a man is too predictable, too available, and too transparent, he leaves no lasting impression. He becomes ordinary. But when his energy is guarded, when his life feels like a book with chapters yet unopened, she cannot put it down. The anticipation of what's next keeps her locked in. This is why mystery is powerful. It doesn't push her away. It pulls her closer with invisible strings. Mystery is not about distance alone, but about presence combined with restraint. He is there, but not fully accessible. He is attentive, but not overflowing. He gives, but never all at once. That balance creates a powerful dynamic that makes her return again and again, trying to uncover what she can't quite touch. Scarcity is one of the most powerful forces that shape human behavior, and when applied to relationships, it becomes even more magnetic. When something feels rare, we instinctively value it more. The same principle applies to a man's presence. If he is not always available, if he does not give unlimited access to his time, energy, or emotions, his value rises in her eyes. It's not because she enjoys being deprived. It's because the scarcity makes her feel that what she receives is precious and not something given to everyone. When a man acts like he doesn't desperately need her, when he carries himself as if his world does not revolve around her approval, he instantly separates himself from the crowd. Too many men give away their attention freely, chasing, calling, texting, and trying too hard to impress. That kind of abundance lowers their worth because it communicates that their presence is easy to obtain. On the other hand, a man who is selective, who knows his worth, who does not bend himself to win validation, forces her to see him differently. She begins to believe that if he is not giving himself fully, it must be because he is valuable, and that value triggers her desire to earn more of him. Scarcity builds anticipation. When she cannot have him whenever she wants, every moment she does get feels more intense, more memorable, more impactful. His attention feels like a rare currency, and every woman instinctively craves something that isn't easily attainable. The psychology behind this is simple. We are wired to chase what feels limited, to fight harder for what isn't guaranteed, to cherish what we fear losing. By not overexposing himself, by not being overly available, he creates an aura of importance that keeps her invested. But scarcity doesn't mean being absent or cold. It's about balance. It's about showing presence with depth, then stepping back so she feels the gap. That gap is where desire grows. Too much access kills intrigue, but too much distance kills connection. The power lies in giving just enough to ignite her emotions, then holding back enough to make her crave more. That rhythm is what makes a man unforgettable in her eyes. Scarcity also communicates self-respect. A man who values his time and energy enough to protect it sends a strong signal. I am not for everyone, and I won't cheapen myself by being too available. That kind of confidence makes her question her own worth in his world. She starts to wonder if she has done enough to earn his time, if she has shown enough to deserve his attention. Suddenly, she is the one chasing, proving, and investing more. In a world where most people give themselves away too easily, scarcity becomes a silent form of power. It transforms ordinary presence into something extraordinary. A man who understands this principle doesn't need to play games. He simply lives with standards, and those standards naturally elevate his value. Attraction thrives on tension, and tension is born out of challenge. When a man presents an emotional challenge, he taps into one of the deepest instincts within a woman, the instinct to win, to prove herself, to be chosen. A man who does not instantly hand over his emotions, who does not rush to validate or shower constant affection, creates a unique dynamic. Instead of making her feel secure too soon, he leaves space for her to question, to wonder, and to work for his emotional investment. That uncertainty sparks desire because she begins to crave what she cannot fully grasp. The emotional challenge doesn't mean playing cruel games or withholding affection altogether. It's about not being predictable. When she cannot fully read him, when his emotions are not laid out like an open book, her mind becomes engaged. She begins to study his silences, analyze his words, and test his reactions. This process alone makes her more emotionally invested because the effort she puts into understanding him ties her closer to him. The more she works for his heart, the more valuable it feels if she ever gets a piece of it. Women are naturally drawn to strength, and part of that strength is emotional control. When a man doesn't lose himself in his feelings, when he can stand firm without collapsing into neediness or desperation, it makes him appear powerful. That power becomes a challenge. Can I reach him? Can I melt that restraint? Can I be the one who unlocks the emotions he doesn't show to the world? The very thought of being the exception creates a deep pull. She doesn't just want his attention, she wants the satisfaction of knowing she has touched a part of him no one else could. An emotional challenge also creates contrast. If a man is always agreeable, always saying yes, always trying to keep peace, she may appreciate the effort, but she won't feel compelled to chase. On the other hand, if he has his own opinions, if he is not afraid to disagree, if he stands by his values, even when she pushes against them, she feels both resistance and attraction. That resistance is stimulating. It forces her to rise up emotionally, to match his strength, and in doing so, she grows more attached. At the root of it, humans value what they earn more than what is simply given. If a man's emotions are too easy to access, she may enjoy it at first, but will quickly lose interest. But if his love feels like something to be unlocked, a prize to be earned, it becomes addictive. She keeps coming back, investing more energy, more time, more emotion, hoping to reach the point where his guard finally lowers for her. And when it does, it feels like a victory that ties her even deeper to him. A true emotional challenge isn't about withholding for the sake of control. It's about holding enough of yourself back to let her prove her interest, her patience, and her effort. That journey creates the fire that ordinary, easy affection could never ignite. Confidence is magnetic, but silent confidence is irresistible. It's not loud, it doesn't seek validation, and it doesn't need to announce itself to be felt. Silent confidence is the kind of energy a man carries without words. It's in the way he moves, the way he looks, the way he chooses not to react. Women feel it immediately because it communicates strength without effort, and strength without effort is rare. When a man doesn't need to prove himself, he separates himself from the noise of everyone else trying too hard. He doesn't compete for attention because he already knows his worth. That kind of presence makes her curious. She wants to know why he's so calm, why he isn't rushing, why he's not scrambling to impress her like others do. His silence makes her ask questions, and those questions turn into interest. The absence of trying becomes more powerful than any attempt to win her over. Silent confidence also shows control. It says, I don't need to react to everything. I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to prove my value. You'll feel it. That level of restraint stands out in a world where most people overexpose themselves emotionally. When a man can hold his ground even in moments of conflict or pressure, it tells her he is unshakable. And being unshakable is deeply attractive because it creates security. She sees a man who cannot be easily moved, and that makes her want to stand closer to him. It's also powerful because it creates space. When he doesn't rush to fill silence with words, she feels his presence more intensely. Silence, when backed by confidence, is never empty. It's heavy, it's meaningful, it demands attention. A man who can sit in silence without appearing insecure communicates that he doesn't fear emptiness, and that fearlessness is magnetic. It makes her lean into the silence, waiting for his words, valuing them more when they finally come. This kind of confidence isn't arrogance, it's certainty. Arrogance screams for recognition, but certainty doesn't need it. Silent confidence tells her, I know who I am, with or without your approval. And that is exactly what draws her in. Women don't get addicted to men because they act careless or distant. They get addicted because those men project an inner strength that doesn't depend on her. She realizes that he's whole on his own, and that makes her want to be part of his world even more. In fact, silent confidence often speaks louder than words ever could. A glance, a pause, or a calm reaction in moments where others would lose control can make her heart race. It tells her he's in charge of himself, and by extension, he can lead, protect, and handle life with stability. That's a rare kind of man, and rarity creates desire. Silent confidence becomes a presence she cannot ignore because it doesn't demand, it commands. Attraction often shifts the moment roles are reversed. Most men are conditioned to believe they must always chase, always prove, always convince a woman of their worth. But when a man stops playing that part, when he refuses to be the one constantly seeking her attention, something unexpected happens. The roles begin to flip. Instead of her being the prize he runs after, he becomes the one she quietly starts to pursue. This reversal is subtle, but it is one of the strongest psychological triggers that makes her addicted. When a man acts as if he is not desperate for her time or validation, she feels a sense of uncertainty. That uncertainty makes her question her place in his life. She wonders why he is not giving her the same pursuit others do. She begins to think, does he even notice me? Does he even care? And the very fact that she doesn't know pulls her deeper in. Instead of him proving his worth to her, she begins trying to prove hers to him. This shift is powerful because it awakens a natural instinct in women, the desire to be chosen. A woman wants to feel that she has earned a man's love, that she has something unique that drew him in. If he chases too hard, too quickly, that feeling disappears. She might appreciate the effort, but she won't feel the thrill of being selected because he has already shown that she was guaranteed. But when he steps back, when he shows restraint, when he acts as though his life is already full and complete, she feels the urge to step forward. She wants to stand out to him. She wants to win his focus. She wants to become the exception. Reversing roles is not about playing games or pretending to ignore her. It's about living in a way where his happiness, his purpose, his goals are not centered on her. He doesn't drop everything the moment she calls. He doesn't rearrange his life to please her. He doesn't abandon his standards just to gain approval. This behavior communicates self-respect, and self-respect forces her to respect him in return. It shifts the dynamic from her being the prize to her wanting to be valued by him. And here lies the paradox. The more she tries to prove herself, the more emotionally invested she becomes. Every effort she makes to gain his attention strengthens her attachment. Every small victory, like a smile, a compliment, or his time, feels like a reward she worked for. And rewards that are earned always feel more valuable than those freely given. The reversal of roles keeps the relationship from becoming one-sided. It creates a balance where she feels challenged, engaged, and deeply drawn to him. She no longer views his affection as something to take for granted. She views it as something meaningful because it wasn't handed to her without effort. And that is what keeps her coming back again and again, craving the man who refuses to be just another pursuer. The mind is wired to chase what it cannot fully have. This is where the psychological hook comes into play, and it is one of the strongest forces that make women addicted to men who act like they're nothing. When a man shows restraint, when he gives only pieces of himself while holding the rest back, he creates a loop inside her mind. She starts to think about him more, analyze his actions, replay conversations, and search for hidden meanings in his silence. Without realizing it, she becomes hooked, not by what he gives, but by what he withholds. The psychological hook works because it feeds on uncertainty. Certainty closes the loop. When she knows exactly how a man feels, exactly what he wants, and exactly what he will do, her mind relaxes. But uncertainty leaves her restless. She starts to crave answers, to seek closure, to dig deeper into who he is and how he feels. That tension keeps her emotionally engaged because her mind is working overtime to solve the puzzle he represents. And every time she fails to fully figure him out, the hook digs deeper. It's the same principle that makes people return to unfinished stories. A cliffhanger is far more powerful than a complete ending because the brain cannot stand incompleteness. When a man acts like he's not fully invested, when he doesn't spell out his emotions or intentions, he becomes that unfinished story in her life. She cannot put the book down because she hasn't reached the ending. This creates obsession, the constant pull to check in, to understand, to finally reach that resolution. But the hook isn't just about silence or distance. It's also about how he presents himself. If he is consistent in his value, if he shows that he is strong, ambitious, and self-sufficient, then his lack of full availability feels even more powerful. She doesn't see him as careless. She sees him as selective. That selectiveness convinces her that his attention must be rare and therefore precious. This belief is what makes her fight harder for it. The psychological hook thrives on contrast. If he gives her moments of warmth, presence, or deep connection, but then pulls back into silence or restraint, her emotions spike. She feels both the sweetness of his presence and the sting of his absence. That emotional roller coaster is addictive because the highs feel higher after the lows. Her brain releases dopamine when she gets his attention, reinforcing the cycle. It's not just him she craves, it's the emotional rush that comes with earning his presence after uncertainty. This hook is not about cruelty, it's about discipline. A man who doesn't give himself away too easily allows her to experience the thrill of pursuit, the challenge of earning, and the satisfaction of small victories. That journey becomes the addiction. It keeps her locked in, emotionally invested, unable to walk away, because her mind is too entangled in the chase for what feels just out of reach. Neediness is one of the quickest ways to kill attraction because it sends a clear message. I need you more than I value myself. And when a man projects this energy, it immediately lowers his worth in a woman's eyes. Contrast that with the man who carries himself with calm detachment, who never rushes to prove himself, who never begs for attention. Suddenly, the difference becomes striking. She doesn't get addicted to neediness. She gets addicted to restraint, to control, to the power of a man who shows he doesn't depend on her for his identity. Neediness looks like constant texting, over-explaining, over-pleasing, and always being available. At first, it might feel flattering, but very quickly it suffocates. Why? Because it communicates lack. A man who is needy is essentially telling her that he doesn't have enough going on in his own life, that he requires her validation to feel complete. That dependence makes him ordinary, predictable, and ultimately unattractive. She may feel sympathy, but sympathy is not desire. On the other hand, the man who shows restraint stands out without trying. He doesn't chase because he doesn't need to. He doesn't beg for her time because he values his own. He doesn't collapse when she pulls away because he is steady on his own feet. This difference creates magnetism because women are not drawn to weakness. They are drawn to strength. The man who acts like he doesn't need her approval projects self-sufficiency, and that self-sufficiency creates desire. The contrast between neediness and confidence is not subtle. It's glaring. A needy man constantly tries to earn her with words, while a confident man lets his presence speak. A needy man rearranges his entire life just to be available, while a confident man prioritizes his own mission and lets her fit into it. A needy man fears losing her, while a confident man knows that losing anyone who doesn't value him is no loss at all. This attitude shifts the entire dynamic. One repels, the other attracts. Psychologically, humans don't value what is too easily available. If she knows she has his entire world without effort, it stops feeling special. But when he doesn't hand himself over so easily, when she has to invest something of herself to gain his attention, she values it. This is why indifference feels more powerful than desperation. It's not that women want to be ignored, it's that they want a man who doesn't collapse under the weight of his desire for them. That strength is what makes him addictive. Neediness drains energy, while confidence fuels it. One feels heavy, while the other feels light and magnetic. The man who contrasts himself against neediness doesn't even need to try. His independence, his control, and his refusal to overgive naturally make him stand apart. And in a world full of men chasing endlessly, the one who doesn't becomes unforgettable. The deeper truth behind why women get addicted to men who act like they're nothing is that it's never really about the neglect, the silence, or the distance. What pulls them in is the meaning they attach to that behavior. When a man acts like he doesn't need her, what she sees is strength. When he holds back, what she feels is mystery. When he refuses to overgive, what she interprets is value. It's not the act of being treated as nothing that hooks her. It's the underlying qualities that his behavior suggests. Women are not addicted to indifference itself. They are addicted to the self-control, the quiet dominance, and the confidence that comes with it. A man who can walk away without begging, who can stay silent without crumbling, who can live without leaning on her approval, sends a powerful message. He is complete, and completeness is rare. Most men look for women to fill their emptiness, but the man who is whole on his own stands out as extraordinary. That wholeness makes her want to be part of his world, not because he needs her, but because he doesn't. The deeper truth is that women crave emotional safety just as much as they crave excitement. A man who doesn't fall apart, who doesn't get carried away by insecurity, becomes a safe place. She knows he can handle pressure, he can withstand temptation, and he can stand firm even when things get complicated. His restraint becomes proof of his strength. And in that strength, she sees stability. This combination of stability and mystery is intoxicating. It makes her feel like she is chasing something greater than herself, something she has to rise up to deserve. Another part of this truth lies in psychology. Humans value what they cannot fully control. When she feels like she doesn't own all of him, when she realizes he is not entirely in her hands, her desire grows. The harder it is to fully grasp him, the more meaningful it feels when he finally gives her a piece of himself. That dynamic is what creates the emotional addiction. It's the chase for what feels rare and the satisfaction of finally earning it. Yet the paradox is clear. Women don't actually want to feel invisible or dismissed. They don't love being treated poorly. What keeps them addicted is not neglect, but the strength behind his restraint. She may mistake the two, but deep down, it's not about being treated as nothing. It's about being in the presence of a man who carries himself as something. A man who knows his worth, who doesn't bend to desperation, who doesn't cheapen himself by over-pursuing. That is what makes him unforgettable. The deeper truth, then, is not about games or cruelty. It's about power rooted in self-respect. A man who values himself automatically becomes valuable in her eyes. And that is what she chases. That is what she craves. Not the indifference, but the rare, undeniable strength of a man who needs no one to validate who he is. At the heart of it all, the reason women get addicted to men who act like they're nothing isn't about neglect, arrogance, or cruelty. It's about the powerful energy these men project. Mystery, scarcity, emotional challenge, silent confidence, and restraint all point to one truth. They value themselves first, and that self-respect forces women to respect them. It shifts the dynamic, it flips the roles, and it creates a pull too strong to ignore. The real lesson here is not to pretend, not to play games, but to build yourself into the kind of man who doesn't need to chase. When you stop needing her validation to define you, you become magnetic. When you carry quiet strength, you naturally create desire. And when you know your worth, you don't beg for love, you attract it.